Alright everyone, it's time for a mild suggestion to all my fellow MAGA fans. Of course, I'm on Team Trump. I want him to be the Republican nominee. As a non-Republican and non-conservative, he's the best that they have to offer, at least currently in the running. If he gave me like Rand Paul, I could vote for him, but I don't see anybody else in the field at this point that I could really back. I see Ron DeSantis, who was, noteworthy before. He was reasonably viable. He hadn't done anything wrong, months ago. I supported him. I was still Team Trump, but I would say, if Trump does lose the primary, then DeSantis would be fine. Since then, he's made a series of blunders, and he's dropped pretty close to being out of viability range. Vivek Ramaswamy, I think, is an interesting individual. I don't know that I fully trust him. Chris Christie's a blowhard. I'd never vote for him. Nikki Haley's a war hawk. I'd never vote for her. Mike Pence is a turd. I'd never vote for him. He constantly speaks in the third person on Twitter. Well, here's Mike Pence's latest announcement, but it's coming from the Mike Pence page. You could at least pretend that it's not a staffer running your Twitter handle. We know Christie does his own tweets. We know that Trump does his own tweets, mainly because they come unhinged sometimes. Fucking Nikki Haley probably does her own tweets. What the fuck is your problem, Mike? I have a feeling that it's his wife won't let him. Much like he's not allowed to be in a room alone with a woman unless his wife is present because he doesn't trust himself. He probably refuses to use Twitter because he's afraid that he'll have sinful feelings and send a DM to someone or something like that. He'll get flirted with, someone will send him booby pics, and he'll feel his sin zone beginning to wake up from its Viagra slumber. Anyway, I'd like to posit this. The primaries are effectively over. Donald Trump now has effectively an insurmountable lead. I see people, especially DeSantis fans, to some degree people that like Ramaswamy, constantly conflating apples to oranges. Again, lies, damn lies, and statistics is the flavor of every day with regards to politics and apparently the sex offender registry. Donald Trump is more than 30 points ahead in the aggregate again than his nearest opponent. He leads the field by an enormous margin. I've seen people try to compare that to like Trump v. Hillary 2016, but then they'll compare betting odds to a primary matchup with aggregated polling, and I just find that hilarious because that's like comparing the price of rice with the price of eggplants. Well, you're talking about price, but they're two entirely different things, grown in different ways. They're not the same thing. You certainly don't cook them the same way either. Both of them are tasty. I don't think that you want to put the eggplant in boiling water and reduce it by 2/3 or something like that. It probably wouldn't have much flavor to it. But the primaries are over. I suggest pivoting directly to the general election at this point. And I'm not the only commentator that's encouraging this. If you are a Trump fan, now is the time to effectively begin ignoring all of the sideshow, the freak show issues within the primaries. It doesn't matter if Nikki Haley gains a point. It doesn't matter if Ron DeSantis goes and sees a football game. It doesn't matter if Chris Christie made a shitty tweet, which he does on a daily basis. These are all amusing, but they're fundamentally useless. And this is the kind of thing that the Democrats and the uniparty GOP wanted. And I warned of this many, many moons ago, before DeSantis even got in, that what they wanted, fundamentally, was a messy primary in which Donald Trump is constrained from pivoting to the general, and in which the people who support him don't act in the way that they really should, which is, he's already won, he can take care of that side of things. We should be already harvesting ballots, trying to run for precinct captain, signing up to be an observer at the polls, etc., knocking on doors. If every Trump fan, let's say only 1% of Trump fans, just 1% of them, the real core fans too, I'm not even talking about the soft support, 1% of those fans, several million people, decided to go and knock on doors, harvest ballots and stuff, just for a weekend. Just one big concerted effort for a very short period of time. You'd end up with an extra million voters, probably. Did you see the polls? I know, again, lies, damn lies, and statistics, but the aggregates are still telling. Have you seen the recent polls with regards to people unlikely to vote? So these are the unenthused individuals, the nihilistic individuals, the apolitical individuals, etc., etc. Those people lean massively towards Trump. If they're gun to their head, forced to choose one or the other, Trump leads by 20-25 points among this bloc. If only a small section of these people, which are very numerous, most people that are eligible don't vote. If only a small proportion of these people were convinced to go to the polls, especially, preferably starting now, it'd be millions of voters. Well, there you have the election, especially if you're targeting states that are in play. So, for example, New Hampshire. New Hampshire does not have a big population. If you were to target a few tens of thousands of voters, it could swing the election there. I have a feeling, by the way, that the election is going to be a lot closer than all of the Biden bravado people think that it's going to be. What about a state like Arizona, which, by the way, is being defortified as we speak? You didn't see that one in the news, now did you? But you heard it first here. Go ahead and look it up. What about a state like Nevada? Again, leans blue, but it is in play. It's a close match in that state. Look at what's happening in New York right now. I'm looking forward to the time where I may still be alive to see New York go red. I'm not going to count on it, but the fact that we're discussing the possibility of it is pretty funny. I think that Eric Adams has done as much damage as Hochul when it comes to the issue. They don't seem to work well together either. Probably not without good reason. Feel almost sorry for the New York City mayor because he can't do anything about it. He doesn't have the power to override Albany. It's funny to see New York City suffer under Albany's boot for once instead of just siphoning money from the rest of the state. It's time for the adults to take charge at this point. Recognize it's fun. Look, it's fun to criticize the other candidates. Little K-Fabe. It's fun to watch them hammer each other. It's fun to watch them hit Trump and Trump hit back. It's amusing. It's a spectacle. Now is the time to go knock on doors, to begin ignoring the also-rans, assume that Trump's got the nomination already, and if he doesn't get the nom, it'll be because the Republican Party is so beyond screwed up that they've decided to sabotage their own frontrunner in a brokered convention possibly, deny him the nomination, and effectively commit suicide as a political party. I wouldn't support them. Hell, at that point, basically the only Republicans would be worth voting for would be like Rand Paul, Thomas Massie. There's like a round dozen of them, Boebert or something like that. The rest of them can go and kick sand. They need to go touch grass because they've clearly got their heads far up in the clouds, and I don't imagine that their legs are that long. Lincoln had a quote with regards to that. I won't bother quoting him, though. Razor Fist will show up and force me to take the pineapples off the pizza. I happen to like pineapple pizza myself. Another way that you know that I'm not Razor Fist. Ignore the primaries. They're basically over. It's fun. Go ahead and make a few shit posts on Twitter, but don't imagine that civically speaking is really helpful behavior. I'm not physically in the United States. Right now, I can't go harvest ballots or knock on doors. And in my home state of Vermont, it's probably pointless because it'll go 40-50 points in favor of Joe Biden. He will win the state. He doesn't even need to campaign there. He knows this. This is why Vermont gets ignored. In fact, fun fact, only time a presidential frontrunner in recent history has bothered to go to Vermont was Donald Trump going to Burlington one time. Even Bernie Sanders is a mainline candidate. He only comes to the state basically when he prefers to be in D.C. He loves it there. He's among his people, his fellow New Yorkers, his tycoon buddies. And while he pretends to be a socialist, he's a socialist when it comes to the little guy. He's very capitalistic when it comes to corporations that he pretends to hate. Ignore the primaries. Go ahead and pivot now. Just by spreading the word about Trump in the general election sense. So imagine that all the volunteers are like, okay, Trump handles the rallies, he's doing those and his court dates and stuff. We're going to pivot to the general. The mere fact that you're harvesting ballots, etc., gives you an opportunity to talk about Donald Trump as well. Since he will be the nominee, the fact that you are harvesting that ballot, the fact that you've knocked on that door and had a short, amiable conversation, you've signed up somebody to vote, that's another thing. Get people registered now, because you don't have that long to do it. Of course, in some states, they have screwy election laws. They're designed to stop populistic candidates and third-partyists in favor of the neo-lib, neocon consensus anyway, because they're the ones that design the fucking laws, because they're the ones in fucking power in the states. Go ahead, knock on a door. Maybe you've never done any form of volunteer work before. Just take a few hours and go down a couple of blocks. It doesn't take long. Take a couple of hours out of your life. If enough people did just that little tiny bit of effort, you would swing the election. It's going to be that close. Yes, including if Donald Trump is running from house arrest, which is very much possible. They're even talking about putting him in actual prison and stripping him of his security detail. There's no Secret Service for him. Boy, oh boy, do I think that would backfire. I think that would be legendary. I think that they would probably do that as a prelude to trying to have him shanked in his cell, but it's possible. They've already crossed the Rubicon 4 or 5 times in the last year, so I don't know. Who knows what the fuck is going to happen now? All I would say is stump for Trump. It's time to begin ignoring the also-rans because none of them really have the qualities that would be necessary to supplant someone with more than 50% of the vote lock stock behind him. Like he's running at about 54% in the aggregate now between his core support, which is somewhere at least in the low 40s, and then the softer support, which really I think is hardened in the wake of all the indictments because it's people who say fuck the system, and now they've finally got a symbol of anti-system, and that symbol happens to be Donald Trump. So pivot to the general. It's fine to talk once in a while about Nikki Haley's latest outburst, Warhawk outburst, or Chris Christie's latest gas attack or something like that, or how Ron DeSantis' campaign is collapsing in real time. It's fine. That shouldn't be the main focus at this point. The main focus at this point should be the general. And by the way, not just Trump, there are plenty of people down ballot that are going to need a hell of a lot of help. That's about all. Peace out.